So this is the 11th and 12th grade surface area and volume review for your test. First thing, I want you to name each one of these. Most of these solids have two names according to what the shape is on the base and how many bases it has. So you got to really think about the base, how many and what the shape is and how many. If it has circular shape, then usually it only has one name. How many bases? So you're asking yourself that. So look here, I see one base. It's only sitting on one, as opposed to this one has two. There's one here and one back here to match it. So this has two bases, this has one, but that's not the name yet. When it only has one, that's called a pyramid, P-Y-R. All right, and then what kind of pyramid? What kind of base was that? What is that shape? Triangular. Just spell triangle and then put U-L-A-R instead of the E right there. Triangular. All right, so this one has two bases. This was a triangular pyramid. This has two triangles, so it's going to be triangular again. But then it has two bases, so that makes it a prism. So triangular prism. On D, you can't see both bases, but you can imagine here's one end and here's the opposite end that matches it. So that's another prism because you've got the two matching bases. You can do top and bottom, front and back. You can imagine that it would keep on going back there. All right, and then what kind of bases? Rectangles. Even if you have squares, if you got any rectangles anywhere, rectangular prism. If it was all squares, it'd be a cube. So don't get that confused. And of course, C is circular, so it's going to have one name, cylinder, for that. All right, it's a little more challenging. What is the full name? It's going to have two bases again, so that's a prism. And then I'm asking you about how many sides. So be real careful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's an octagonal, like octagon, octagon, A-L, put on the end, octagonal prism. How many vertices? Vertices means the corner points. So on the front, I know I've got 8 sides, so that's 8 points, but I also have another 8 on the back. So 8 and 8 is 16. So take your time with that. The points. All right. Now, starting with our formulas. What is the volume formula? So you go to your big B sheet, flip over to the back. Volume of a what? This is a prism. It's got the two matching ends. So prism volume is big B times big H. And that's not just two numbers. That's your formula. So we start with the height. We need to put our numbers on here. 16 by 8 by 4. So the longest part is probably the 16. And then the 8 and 4, it doesn't matter. Put one on one end and one on the other. Like that. Put that at the end. So your height connects the two bases. On a rectangular prism, you could do the top and bottom. You could do the front and the back. Or you could do the left and the right side. I always try to pick the smaller end. So here's a small end. And here's a small end, and those are going to be my bases if they match opposite like that. Yeah, so that's my bases. So my height connects the two bases. So connecting those two ends is the 16. That's your big height right there. Once you get that height, then the big B is just going to be from one of these bases. That is a rectangle on the end where you have 8 and 4, and that's all you have to look at. You don't have to look at any more of this. It's just 8 and 4. Big B is the area of that shape. So when you have the big B, flip it over, flip that page over to the side that says the big B on the front, and you look up rectangle. This is a rectangle, so that's base times height. So I'll be putting in base times height, or 8 times 4 times my 16. And so that works out to 512. We had the shortcut, if you remember from before, whenever you got a rectangular prism and they want volume, not surface area, but volume, you can do length times width times height. So length times width times height for 3 numbers, there you go. That's the quickest way for the ACT. But this is the broken down version of it. Alright, so moving on to our solid here. This is a cylinder. And the formula for surface area, look on the back of your big B. You have a big formula, but it's not hard to fill in. 2 pi times the radius times the height plus 2 pi times radius squared. Well, you got two numbers to fill in. A radius, and that's going to be on the circle. So here's my circle right here. That's my radius going halfway across. So 5 right there, and then 5, and it gets squared. Don't forget the square. The height, big height is 10, so that's times 10 right there for height. And then the rest of it's just 2 and pi times the radius times the height, 2 and pi. And so you can put all that in one shot in the calculator, or you can do it as two separate parts. Do that, then add them up later if you want to. 314.16 plus 157.07. So I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places, but 1 or 2 is fine. If your decimal is a little off, it'll be okay. If you're real close to 471, that's okay. Real close, like you can't have 475, but you could have 470 or 472. It depends on how you put pi in. If you put in 3.14, it might be a little different than the pi button. But I used the pi button when I did it. Alright, so that's surface area for that, covering the outside. The volume has its own formula. It's another big B, like up here, times the height. But on the back of your sheet again, pi times radius squared times the height. I gave you it broken down already. So, same idea. Put in the radius, which is 5. Put in the height, which is 10. Put it all in the calculator, 785.40. Okay? Just following the formulas, knowing the part. Alright, what's the volume of this one? So another volume of a what? 2 bases or 1 base? It's got 2 bases on each end. So then we'll do the prism formula. It is a pentagonal prism. So prism formula, the volume is big B times height. So let's get the height out of the way first. The base in the back, the base in the front, what's connecting them? The 10. So we got that height. Now we just need the big B, the area of that shape, and that'll be that, probably the one in the front. You do have a 6 in the back. It's going to match. Front and back are going to match. So go ahead and bring that 6 up front. And now we're just looking right here at that pentagon. You have a 6. You have 2.3 right there. That's all the rest of the problems right there coming from that part. You have to put in your formula though for big B. That is a regular polygon, regular pentagon, regular polygon. So A apothem times perimeter divided by 2. So the apothem is the easy part. Looks like a little radius, 2.3. The perimeter we don't have yet. 6 is not the perimeter. You got to say 6, 6, 6, 6 all the way around. Makes 30. And then don't forget your times your big height on the end. So apothem 2.3. That's a point. I'm a little bit off there. Let me fix that. Make it look a little better. 2.3 times 30 times 10 divided all by 2. And you end up with 345. Right? Horizontal cross section. Horizontal is sideways. So I'm cutting it sideways. And if you think about it, this would be, if I cut it right through like that, I want to know, is that parallel to the bases? Parallel to the top and bottom? Yeah, if I sliced it that way, I would get a matching thing to the bases. And those bases are circles. So if I sliced it right there, I would get a big circle in the middle when it opened up. So if I did a vertical, straight up and down, what would that look? Okay. If I did it straight up and down, sliced it, it's kind of like there's a little section there. That's more matching the sides. It's parallel to the sides, and the sides will be more rectangular, even though they're curving around. Think about the soup can label. it is a rectangle when you unravel it. So this would be a rectangle if you sliced it horizontally straight down. Okay. Alright, so vertical. That was vertical. Horizontal gives you the circle. Vertical gave you a rectangle. You just know it for other shapes. It needs to be whatever it's parallel to is going to match. Alright, a stack of 1,000 congruent triangles. So congruent is their matching. So it doesn't matter, you don't have to make 1,000, but one on the bottom is going to match congruent to the one on top. Connect them all. What do you get? I see 2 bases, so that's a prism. What kind of bases are they? They're triangles. So that is a triangular prism. Alright, surface area. The formula for the surface area of it's only got one base. That's a pyramid. So 1/2 perimeter times slant height plus 1 big B. Alright, start with your height again, like we did before. The 4 is that slant height, height is height. And then the rest of it, focus right here, that's the rest of the problem. It is a square on the bottom that is 7.2. I want the perimeter of that. Perimeter, that little square. 7.2, 7.2, 4 times 4, because there was 4 sides of it. And that gives you 28.8. We're going to multiply it times that height for 4. All right, and then plus, you want to work that side out. It works out to 57.6. All right, then the big B. That is the big B. What is it? It's a square. What's the formula for square? Side squared, or base times height, if you want to do it like that. So 7.2 times 7.2. And that works out for that, 51.84. So your base added to your perimeter and slant height gives you a total of 109.44. A lot of steps, but not impossible. Just follow the formula. Think about what the parts are. Alright, regular height of a cone. So this is an easy one. You're looking for this regular height going straight up. The slant height is 12 and the radius right there would be 7. So this is a Pythagorean theorem problem. X squared, leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. That's 49, that's 144. We're going to subtract the 49 and get 95. So final step, x squared equals 95, so you got square rooted. And that works out to 9.75. Oops, 75. 9.75. Number 11. The volume of another pyramid. Volume formula for a pyramid is 1/3. This is on the back of the big B times the big height, or big B times the big height. So the regular height, straight up and down the middle, that's the 10. Just fill it in. The rest of the problem comes from the base. When you get the height out of the way, that makes it so much easier. So, okay, my base is a rectangle that's 12 by 4. All I need is the big B. What's the formula for a rectangle? The big B is that. So base times height, 12 times 4 times that 10, and then don't forget 1/3, because it doesn't have 2 bases. 12 times 4 times 10, and 1/3 of that. No problem. It makes 160. Alright, volume of a sphere. The formula for volume, 4/3, pi r cubed. Be careful, and I did it wrong on my paper, so I'm going to redo it. 4 divided by 3 times pi times my radius is not 10. My radius only goes halfway across. So if it's 10 all the way, 5 will be my number. So that'll be 5 cubed. Now, when I wrote it on my paper, I did squared, so don't make that mistake. When you put it in the calculator, you can just say 5 times 5 times 5, that'll be 5 cubed. Or there's a little button with a little mountaintop thing, and you can do it like that. So in the calculator, it'd be 4 divided by 3 times pi, and then you can say 5 raised to the 3rd power. Type in 5, hit the mountain, and hit the 3, and hit equal. Let's see what that does. $523.60. Round it off 2 decimal places. Okay. Line 2, surface area and volume. So you've got another problem with surface area. This is one of those prisms. Got the top and the bottom matching, so that's under the prism formula. It's a hexagonal prism. So the formula, perimeter times big height, surface area. Perimeter times big height plus 2 times your big B, because you do have 2 bases. So, as we always have done, the height first. Height connects the 2 bases. This base on top connected to the bottom. What's connecting them? That 8 right there. 8 is your main thing. So now the rest of it comes from just the top. You could ignore all this on the bottom and say, I'm just looking at a hexagon. What is the perimeter of that hexagon? I got 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, all the way around. 20 times 6 sides makes 120. So that part's going to work out to 960. Then you're going to do 2 times the big B. And 2, just bring it down a couple of times so you don't forget it. My big B, it is a, what is this base? It's a hexagon. What's my formula? A regular polygon formula. Apothem times perimeter divided by 2. My apothem is 10. My perimeter, look over here, we already did perimeter, is 120. It's the same perimeter. And then don't forget, all on top of 2. So 2 times 10 times 120 divided by 2. Some of y'all know you can cancel out the 2, but if not, just put it in there. So that part, total, add your 960 when you're finished, 2,160 would be your surface area. It's complicated, but it's just a formula. It's a recipe. Do this part, do this part, do this part, do this part. It's not like you got to guess on the parts to do. You just got to be thinking about what does that mean to put those in there. All right, and finally, number 15, the surface, the volume of the same shape. Volume of a prism is still a prism. Big B times height. It's the same height, 8. It's the same big B, the apothem times perimeter over 2. The apothem was 10, the perimeter was 120, sitting on top of 2 times the 8. And you get 4,800. Okay, normally this is a bigger number than the surface area, but it doesn't have to be. When you get to certain numbers, it can be smaller. All right, good luck.